Hello BookTube! So I'm here today with a book review for The Vegetarian by Han King. Now this is a book that definitely was really popular last year and still is really popular, to be honest. It won the Man Booker Prize and it made its way around BookTube made its way around BookTube. It was very popular, but people also had very mixed reactions towards it. As you probably have heard, this isn't about actually being a vegetarian so much to say. It's a bit of a horror, a little bit of a horror novel, which is a little outside my comfort zone. I generally don't read horror, and so at first I was not enjoying it. The book is split into three parts. The vegetarian is a woman named Yong-hye, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. It's a Korean novel, and it's translated into, I obviously read it translated into English, and this is the first bit of Korean literature that I have read, so it was very illuminating for me. I think I'm going to read Han King's next book after this. I got it. It's on hold for me at the library, but I've heard it's very different as well. What's it called again? Human Acts. There we go. That's it. This book is about a woman named Yong-hye who becomes a vegetarian. It is told from the perspective of three different family members who know her. Her husband, her brother-in-law, and her sister. And so we never see the inner thoughts of Yong-hye herself. And we start with the narration of her husband. We see that he is not in love with her. He barely appreciates her. He married her because of her stability and because of her constancy and because of her normalcy. And she's a very dutiful wife, and Korea is a very patriarchal society. That is something that I was unaware of at the time before I read this. Korea is actually, what is it, I believe? Out of 154 countries in the world, I believe it's 114 in terms of gender equality, which is something that I did not know. I read an article in the New York Times. It was technically an opinion piece, but I will link it down below because I found it very illuminating. And that's the core of what this book really is. Not necessarily about vegetarianism, but about personhood and about the act of being a person in spite of abuse and in spite of being minimized due to your sex or due to being a victim. So Yong-hye is living her average, ordinary life. She is married, and all of a sudden she decides that she can no longer eat meat. She technically becomes a vegan because she does not eat any animal products whatsoever, and her family becomes concerned for her because this is quite abnormal. We learn that this is in direct defiance of her husband, and it's really a way of reclaiming her autonomy and her personhood. So we see Yong-hye's vegetarianism and veganism, and which ultimately progresses to anorexia, as an expression of her view of herself, that she is not a person, and personhood is, I use that term loosely because we think about what is a person. A person is an individual with autonomy. An animal is not a person. They are not people. And plants are not people. They are not a person. So she is retreating into lower life forms as an expression of who she is, an expression of who she feels that she is. So we see so she is gradually sliding down the life form scale, if you will, to reach this equilibrium so that her lifestyle will reach this equilibrium within her, because of how she's and she feels this way because of how she's been treated. She has been abused by by her husband and by her father as a child. She was physically abused and emotionally abused, and she has been raped by her husband. And ultimately, this has led to her retreating further and further within herself. And without autonomy, she is not a person. And so the first narrator, her husband, is very generic, and I was honestly a little bit bored at first, but I think that's almost intentional. It's supposed to be the conventional Korean relationship. It's a woman who does as she is told, and a woman who is responsible for the household work, and a woman who is subject to her husband's desires, and the way that that oppresses her. And gradually the narrative becomes more focused and specific. So we see and so we see her with the next narrator of her brother-in-law describing her. We see her beginning to fall farther down the life form scale, as you will, and like no longer seeing herself as an animal even, but that of a plant, and being attracted to flowers, and then eventually thinking that not only does she not need animal products to live, she only needs water and sunlight, and she wants to grow like a tree within the earth, and she wants to sprout flowers, and she identifies with that type of life form. And I found that incredibly fascinating. It was a really unique expression, I think, of how we define personhood and how we define individuality within patriarchal societies. I was very impressed, honestly. I was not expecting this to go where it went. And yeah, I'm still mulling over my thoughts. I don't know when I'm going to rate this. This was as I mentioned, my first work of Han King that I have read, and again, my first Korean novel as well. So I was very impressed, and I'm going to read her next work soon. So stay tuned for a review for that. Yeah, so tell me what you thought of the... this was read by, this was recommended highly by Oprah magazine. I didn't know that. So tell me what you thought in the comments section, and I shall see you all next time. Doei!